Hey YouTube, how's it going? My name's Jonathan, and in this video I've got something super exciting for you. This is my unboxing and review of the Apple iPhone XS. So the iPhone XS came out last week, and I have to say I was pretty excited to get my hands on Apple's latest phone. The last iPhone I bought was the iPhone 7, which was a really great phone at the time, but I never got the chance to use the iPhone X last year and try out the new edge-to-edge screen for myself. The iPhone XS, to be totally honest, doesn't seem like that big of an upgrade from the iPhone X, but since this is my first time using it, it felt like a new experience to me. When you open up the iPhone XS box, you get everything you expect and nothing more. The first thing you see is the Apple literature, a basic startup manual, warranty information, and Apple stickers. Underneath that, you've got the phone itself, and just so you all know, I opted for the gold 256GB iPhone XS since the 64GB version was out of stock when I placed my order. The phone looks and feels really nice in your hands. I'll be talking a whole lot more about that in just a moment, but let me set the phone aside for 30 seconds to show what's left in the box. You've got the standard Apple headphones with a lightning connection, just like Apple shipped with every other iPhone, but what you don't get this time round, what Apple's decided they no longer need to provide, is the lightning to 3.5mm headphone jack adapter. That's right, you'll be spending well over $1,000 on a phone to not even get an adapter for the headphones you might even use most often. Underneath the headphones, you've got the lightning to USB charging cable and a power brick, so no surprises there. The iPhone XS does charge wirelessly, but you'll have to get them out separately if that's something that you want. So let's get back to talking about the actual phone. The iPhone XS looks pretty much identical to the iPhone X, although in my case it's pretty obvious it's the new model since the gold color option is new this time round. On the back, the dual camera module is also a tiny bit taller on the iPhone XS, and the only reason that matters is it might prevent some iPhone X cases from fitting the phone correctly. As you can imagine, the iPhone XS does feel very different from the iPhone 7 and iPhone 8. The biggest difference is obviously the display. You get a 5.8-inch Super Retina display with OLED tech on the XS, so the comparatively small 4.7-inch screen on the iPhone 7 and iPhone 8 feels pretty different. One thing I found interesting though is the fact the two phones are actually pretty close to the same size, given the edge-to-edge screen on the XS. The XS is like 4mm wider and 5mm taller than the 7 and 8, which is obviously not that big of a deal. In one hand though, I do have to say the 4.7-inch screen on the iPhone 7 is way easier to reach across, and actually that was something I pointed out right after the XS and XS Max came out, the shift in Apple's design philosophy from designing exclusively smaller phones to making the biggest phone on the market. Another big change for me switching from the iPhone 7 to the XS is the lack of a home button with Apple's newest phones. It definitely took me a couple days to get used to the new gesture navigation system, swiping up from the bottom to go home, swiping down from the top right to access the control center, swiping up and then holding to see my open apps. I can't say definitively which I like better between the home button and gesture controls, it's just different, so one is way more familiar to me than the other for right now. It's also interesting using Face ID for the first time, which lets you unlock your phone by just glancing at the screen. Apple has said Face ID is way more secure than the old Touch ID system because of the true depth camera and sensors in the notch at the top of the screen. With the iPhone XS, Face ID is actually slightly faster than it was in the iPhone X, and it's definitely way better than when it first came out. There are way fewer issues than I saw last year, for instance, when you unlock your phone in the dark. Coming back to the screen for just a second, one thing that's interesting to note is that the 5.8-inch screen on the iPhone XS is actually the smallest in Apple's current lineup of 2018 iPhones. The iPhone XR hasn't come out yet, but it will have a 6.1-inch screen, and the XS Max is actually bigger than the Galaxy Note at 6.5 inches. The OLED screen on the XS though is absolutely beautiful. It's very colorful with black so deep you don't even notice the notch at the top of the screen when you use a black wallpaper. The screen is a 2436 by 1125 screen resolution, which gives it 458 pixels per inch, and it's really sharp. It makes for a great viewing experience when you're watching movies or playing games. It also allows you to take full advantage of the new camera on the XS, which is way better than the iPhone X, let alone the iPhone 7. You've got a dual camera system like on the X, a 12MP standard lens with an f1.8 aperture, paired with a 12MP telephoto lens with an f2.4 aperture. Both have optical image stabilization, and you can capture 4K video up to 60 frames per second. The image sensor is also now larger, which helps with better low light photo, and there's no lag when you're trying to take a picture. The colors in iPhone XS photos are very natural. As you can see, there's less grain than before, and bright lights don't look overexposed because of a new feature called Smart HDR. Basically, the camera takes more pictures than ever before when you tap on the shutter button, and that includes taking photos at 3 different exposures, and then combining them all to create the best photo that doesn't accentuate bright lights or underexposed dark areas. Another new thing this time around is a feature called Depth Control, which works alongside the iPhone XS's portrait mode. This actually lets you adjust the depth of field in a post after you've already taken a picture, so you can add a stronger blur or remove it entirely. This is a feature that lets you customize exactly how you want your photos to look before sharing them, and honestly, it's something that I find pretty cool. Moving on from the camera, the thing that allows the iPhone XS to operate so quickly is the A12 Bionic processor, which is Apple's first mobile processor built using a 7nm process. This houses 6.9 billion transistors, and Apple says it can deliver stronger performance while still being more efficient than last year's A11 Bionic. There's also a neural engine inside again for machine learning tasks, and Apple says it now has 6 more cores for a total of 8 that allow it to process 5 trillion operations per second. Those are crazy sounding numbers, but at the end of the day, all you really need to know is that this is the most powerful smartphone in the world right now, and based on the stress tests I conducted on the XS, the phone really does live up to the hype. The last thing I wanted to mention before giving my overall verdict is the battery life. The XS will offer a full day of battery life. When I was testing this phone on one day, I had the screen on for about 7 hours between taking pictures, playing games, and experimenting with different apps, and that accounted for about 85% of the iPhone XS's battery life. That means you really will make it from morning until night on a single charge, and that's a big improvement from my iPhone 7, which only lasts about half the day at this point. Overall though, is it actually worth going out and getting the iPhone XS? Well, from my perspective, as an iPhone 7 user, this phone is way better than before. I mean, there's so many features that are an upgrade from older models of the iPhone, from the edge-to-edge screen, to Face ID, to just the blazing speed with which this phone operates, to the amazing camera system, but that really doesn't talk about the major downside this phone has, which is the price. The configuration of the iPhone XS I opted for set me back over $1,250 including tax, and for that kind of money, you could buy so many different things. I mean, you could get a nice Ultrabook, you could get a gaming laptop, you could build a really good gaming desktop, you can get like 5 Motorola G6 phones, you can buy a piano if you want, and that is my issue with the iPhone XS. Let me be clear, the iPhone XS isn't the only phone that starts for over $1,000. The Galaxy Note also comes in at that price point, so I'm not just singling out Apple, but just because multiple phones are doing it doesn't make it right, and the fact is, the iPhone XS is a price that you'll have to look long and hard at before you actually consider getting this phone. If you have the iPhone X, it's not worth upgrading. I'm just going to say that right here and now. The iPhone X offers pretty much everything the iPhone XS offers, and there's no point in spending another grand on a phone that you'll probably be upgrading in just a couple years anyways. If you have an older model of the iPhone, there is a case that you could make for wanting to upgrade. I mean, this is a phone that probably will last you quite a while. It's a durable phone, it's a really nice phone to use, but again, it's $1,000. The other thing you should keep in mind is the iPhone XR will be coming out later this year, and that phone I actually still consider pretty overpriced for what it offers, but it is only $750, which is a big improvement. I mean, you're talking about like $300 difference between that phone and the iPhone XS, so if you really just want a new phone and you don't need everything new that the iPhone XS offers, that could be another good alternative. With that said though, let me know what you think of the iPhone XS in the comment section down below and whether you think it's worth its cost. I mean, it is a really good phone, so maybe you're just getting what you pay for, but I still have just a hard time justifying spending this much. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and you want to see more really in-depth, detailed reviews like this one on my channel in the future. And with that said, I will see you next time.